Our worst VARs are the ones that kind of sit there quietly throughout the whole match, and then boom, something happens. And it's like going from 0 to 90, that you're not ready, your heart rate's not ready.
Hello and welcome to the Refs Need Love To podcast, a show that gives you a real, raw, and behind-the-scenes view of one of the hardest jobs on the pitch, the referee. I'm your host, David Gerson, a grassroots referee and certified mentor with over 11 years of experience and over 1,400 matches under my belt. You can find me at refsneedlove2.com, on Instagram, TikTok, and now on YouTube. Today, we are joined by none other than Greg Barkey. Now, you might not know his name, but you have seen his work. He is the manager of video review for Pro, the professional referees organization here in the United States since 2018. He's the man, and again, you've probably seen these cool breakdowns of critical calls on Inside Video Review for Pro, and he's not just a VAR expert. He is a FIFA instructor. He was a FIFA International Assistant Referee from 95 to 2008, 13 years on the FIFA panel. He was on USA referee team in the FIFA World Cup in Germany 2006. MLS Assistant Referee of the Year in 2009, over 300 Major League Soccer matches, 4 MLS Cup finals, which making 1 is an achievement, 4 is no joke. USSF National Referee since 1995, 3 Open Cup finals, nominated for 2 Emmy Awards for television post-production editing, and probably the biggest accomplishment. I know, I've been married for 25 years. He's been married for 40 years to his wife, Christina, and he's got 8 and a half grandkids. Sounds like you got one on the way, Greg. Welcome to the pod.
We certainly do. They don't. I think they're done now, though. So we'll see.
My gosh, well, that is quite an achievement and quite a career. I mean, Mike, it's so interesting to hear about someone. I mean, you have really dedicated your life to the game, and again, going from the field, but now also to kind of around the referee. You were a FIFA assistant referee, and now, moving to the VAR side. Was it an easy transition to go from being ref on the field to now focusing on the technology beside the game, kind of supporting the referee?
Yeah, not really, because I think when we came up, at least when I came up, you did both jobs. I almost always refereed until I became a FIFA AR.
Mhm.
I rarely did assistant referee, but that was the path to take at the time. Just for various reasons. I kind of looked ahead and said, how can I get to the World Cup? But as a referee or as an AR? And at that time, we had some solid referees in the lineup. So I said, I can make it as an AR. So that's why I chose that path. And then afterwards, it just naturally went there. I mean, I don't know if I told you, but I worked in television for 20 years as a post-production editor for Telemundo. And so it was just natural for me to go into the video side of things because, first of all, I understood all the technology and the issues going on and how to work with slow motion and speeds and angles and all that stuff. So it all came very naturally to me. So I kind of, when the position kind of came up and when we were first really getting into it, I gravitated to it right away. And so it was just only a natural thing to go right into that sort of thing of video and refereeing, which, 2 things that I love.
So talk to me about that transition, because I think a lot of people don't know the timing. And also, the United States was a trailblazer in VAR technology at the time, if I'm not mistaken. Can you talk to me? So were you still an assistant referee for MLS when VAR technology came onto the scene, or was there a transition between the two?
No, I just had retired in 2015. I retired, but just to give you some real background, around 2014 and 2015, we started looking at video with MLS. We had people in some stadiums, and they were timing, for example, how long it takes after a penalty kick is given before it's actually taken. And is there time in that gap for someone to look at a video and decide to either change the decision or keep it? Because everybody was worried when VAR came out about how much time it would take. That it would stop the game. So that was a big worry, how long things were going to take. It's less so now because it's just doesn't happen as often. But that was a big thing. So we were having people already starting to do some data research on the time it would take to do something. And so that was started. And then in 2016, we along with FIFA, we were testing the background. We started doing some things in the second division and started training people up. We went to Salt Lake, Park City, and we brought in a bunch of teams, and we had a week's worth of just cameras on a field. Believe it or not, would be in your backyard. It was your classic grassroots park in a community, and we had 8 cameras loaded up there, a production truck, and we just brought in teams, and we did ran plays to learn how to do it. And that's how it started. We had just a little trailer there with all the production in there, and teams did it in Park City. And that's how we started. And then we had our first official game, which was in New York at Red Bull Arena, where the person came out and was actually holding the monitor in their arms like this. For Ishmael, it was actually Ishmael Elfat that was the first one to go to a monitor to basically, in that case, it was to take away a penalty kick and give a red card because
Whoa.
the foul had happened outside the penalty area, and so Ishmael had given it inside and given a yellow card. But it was just outside, and so then turned from spa into dog. So it was actually a big decision. But that was the first one, and then we were the first league to go with a season of league play. There was a couple other leagues, Australia and Holland and Netherlands were doing some individual games at that point. But in August, we decided to go with the full season, every game in the season.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I want to make sure everyone hears that. So the MLS was the first, like, kind of, again, top professional league that is implementing VAR across all of the stadiums for an entire season before the Premier League, before La Liga, before Liga One. I mean, that is really kind of on the cutting edge of change. And I think it's interesting, you know, soccer in America gets a lot of heat for, maybe not being at the same level as La Liga or Premier League. But in terms of technology and policy, you guys were the first to implement VAR at a league level, but also on the agenda this year. I noticed for IFAB, who's getting together and talking about rule changes, some of the things that the MLS has implemented in terms of like injury, if you stay down for too long, okay, then you need to come off the field, or substitutions and people are not coming along. Those are things that are on the agenda for the rest of the world to adopt in the next couple of years. So what do you think it is about pro and the MLS that kind of you guys are, again, it's in the first 3 letters of your name, but progressive and willing to embrace technology or do things different from the rest of the world?
Well, I think a lot of it has been we have a good relationship with the league. A lot of places the referee corps is here, the league is over here, and they never get together. We've always done things with the league and tried to work with them. Sometimes there's been some crazy ideas that they wanted to start. I don't if people remember some of the A League games that happened, which had some crazy attempted rules that just didn't make sense in the end. But we've been working with them. So a lot of these things are trial, right? They get approval to be trialed. And the pro will work with them, and sometimes we get going and say, look, this would be work better this way or that way. And so that's what happened with video review. We were in on it right away and willing to go work with them on that. And then like the new rule with the on-field treatment rule and the team substitution, all this stuff gets practiced before. We don't just start the season with it. So in our preseason training, we're testing it out, seeing how it works, making sure that we have some little things. And also it has to agree with law. You can't just, all of a sudden make this up. So for example, with the on-field treatment rule, if there's a yellow card, the player doesn't have to sit out 2 minutes because that's in the laws of the game. So that's not an exception. And same thing is like he's the penalty kick taker, that weird one that if they're injured, those things you can't change. So all this stuff we work together, like make sure that the rule doesn't actually break the laws of the game. So it has to work together. So really the league has been very wanting to innovate. We've been willing to work with it. And there's been some things that have come and they don't work quite right. And so they get adjusted. And it'll be interesting to see if some of these rules end up in the World Cup, if they vote them in or not. Most everything that we do is to improve the entertainment value of the game, put it that way. On-field treatment rule and time substitution, the main purpose for that is to get the ball back in play quicker. It also helps the referee because good and well how frustrating it is to have players going down late in the game when they're up 1-0 or something. And it's like, you're not a doctor. You can't tell them, get up. I know you're faking, even though, we know they're faking. Come on. But because we know the score, we know soccer, you know what's going on, but you can't tell some guy to heal thyself immediately. We don't carry the holy spray with us and spray on their legs and make them go. Like, for example, the 8-second rule that just came in, right? The 8-second rule. Well, what does that do really? It's because referees didn't want to do 6-second rule because it used to be 6 seconds.
Right.
Nobody ever called that. Even grassroots, nobody called it. I mean, if you saw it in grassroots, it was somebody's first game, and then they got told, "Hey, look it, that is a rule. You were right to call it, but don't do it ever again." Because who wants to give an indirect free kick
Hmm.
at any level? I don't care if you're doing the under 8 teams or that in front of the goal, where you have to set up a wall. So that law didn't never made sense because the punishment was too severe. I mean, to put an indirect kick right in front of goal, and it was a mess for the referees. I mean, to do that. I mean, if you ever had to do that, where you had to give an indirect free kick, inside the penalty area and put a wall on the line, it
Yeah.
takes longer. So that rule was really implemented to help the referees and to get the ball in play,
Yeah.
which everyone wants to see the ball in play. Then, and we know as referees at any level, grassroots, professional, if the ball's in play, people aren't complaining; they're playing.
Yeah, no,
But
I love it. I love it. I will say I think there's something about being American, like an American ideal. Like in other parts of the world, they look at us and they think that we're cowboys, that it's the Wild West over here. And, Americans, not necessarily the ones who always invent the technology, but they're very quick to embrace new technology and new ways of doing things. It's more of this very entrepreneurial mindset in the United States. And I've heard that from other countries as well, is that people are a little bit more conservative and they're adverse to change, where it's a different setup here in the US. We are interested in change and we are interested in making it more entertaining and speeding up the game. And I think it is a positive thing, that we do that. And we're seeing that between pro and MLS. So I do have a question for you though, because,
yeah,
there's a lot of very strong feelings about VAR. I don't want to talk about from the fan perspective because, we know them. They're never going to be happy about anything that we do as referees. Doesn't matter. But
yeah.
as a referee, when you were a FIFA assistant referee or as a referee in the middle of the field, VAR wasn't there during your time. But do you wish it was? Looking back, do you think it would have been helpful? Would it have changed how you refereed the game as an assistant or as a ref?
Um, yes, there's always one decision you have that you go back to and you look at the monitor and you go, oh, the phone. Back in the day, you took a VHS. They show how old we are. Took a VHS tape, backed it up, and played it. And then when you paused it, even with the pause being like it was in the VHS, you could tell, oh, that guy wasn't offside or that. And there was a call in Seattle about a cross goal line, goal or no goal
Mm,
decision that happened very quickly. I didn't think went in, and then when you looked at the video, it went in. It was close. It was pretty fast, but with stop action, you could tell that it was in. So for those, yeah, because you feel bad afterwards. Every referee feels bad when they make a mistake or walk away from a game, and they go, you know what? I don't think that was a penalty kick. Then you look back at even on your phone or something, and you go, yeah, that wasn't the best decision. And so for a lot of people at first, I can tell you the referees were a little bit, wait. I don't want people checking me out on this stuff. But then when you can sleep at night because you're not worried about a decision that kept the team out or gave 3 points to someone and did when they didn't deserve it, it's okay because then you say, you know what, I did make a mistake, but I got to fix it before the game was over. So that's a big difference in your emotional well-being after a game. And that's where a lot of referees, it did help them, in some ways. And for some referees, it probably kept their careers a little longer because they actually fixed it,
yeah.
and sometimes you get left with a bad decision that shows up in the newspaper or shows up on video, and you had to live with it back then. Now you at least can fix it, and we don't fix everything. I mean, everybody thinks VAR is going to be perfect.
Mhm.
It doesn't. We still feel like we missed. We basically get the decisions. It gives about 6% more accuracy in the data that we have. Like, let's say the referees are usually around 89, 90% correct on most decisions. I mean, we talk about all decisions in the game. Penalty kicks, fouls, they're about 90% correct. VAR adds another 6% to that or so. So you still got 4% of where you're going to miss a penalty kick or red card. And when you have 510 games, that adds up to, 30, 40 incidences in a year. And you just hope that those aren't the worst ones, that you hope it's the fifth goal on a 4-0 game,
Yeah.
where a mistake is made, and then nobody cares.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing thing. So I was talking with Greg before we went on. So I got to meet Greg in person about 3 weeks ago at the coaches convention. And at the coaches convention, Pro actually brought a full VAR setup. So they had like a video production coordinator working with you, and you got to, for a moment, for a play, got to be a video review, one of the video review people. And so it's an amazing thing. I mean, the technology is fantastic. It's it's interactive. It's touchscreen. But even with all of the views that you have, and at one time maybe you could be looking at four different views, and your assistant might have 20 in front of them. I mean, you're trying to go through all of these different views to find the right angle that gives you something definitive, where you could see something clear and obvious. And even with all of those angles, again, you don't have 30 minutes to go through. It's about a minute or so, maybe, that they're going to hold up play looking at this. There's still a chance that you may not see what someone else might see from the stands. We see it all the time where someone's got a fan video, right,
Right.
of a really interesting angle that the VAR team doesn't have. So there's still the chance that someone's going to miss something or just didn't
Yeah.
see something in that entire melee of stuff that happens on free kicks and corner kicks and things happening in different parts of the field. No one's going to be perfect.
No.
It's
And
tough.
it doesn't matter what level you're refereeing, you're not going to get every decision right. I mean, when you talk about VAR, you're fixing at the World Cup level or MLS level, you're fixing mistakes from people that their job is to be a referee. That I mean, that's their pay versus someone who's doing it on the weekend, loves to do it, and gives their best effort. They're going to make mistakes too. So it's like you can't go with the mindset you're going to be perfect. You just do the best you can to be in the best position to see things right, to manage the game well, and that's really the best you can do. And people that and when you come to refereeing, it's not always just the decisions. Like the penalty kick or the red card. It's about managing the people on the field, and usually the good referees are the better player managers and game managers.
Mhm.
And the decision making is usually not always the what makes a good game or a bad game for a referee. That's just a decision in a game. What really makes a good referee and a poor referee, or whatever you want to how you want to differentiate it, is their player management and their game management. And that's really, if you look at all the professional referees, watch how they manage the players. Stop watching the decisions. Watch how they manage the players, and you'll tell a good referee from a poor one by how they manage the players and how the players react, the
Mhm.
coach, the technical staff, how they react. That's where the good referees are, and that's hard to find because you can always teach somebody what a penalty kick is or
Mhm.
what a handball is. But then how do you deal with the players for the other, thousand decisions you make in the game? So that's really where it is.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that. One of the things that I think is kind of a guiding principle for VAR, much to a spectator and player chagrin, is you're not trying to re-referee a match. So there may be, pulls or pushes that happens off the ball, or maybe it just based on that match, wasn't a foul, in that match for that referee. How does the VAR team kind of gauge, okay, what is something clear and obvious I need to have the referee come to the monitor and look at because I believe there's been an error here, and what is just contact, and
Yeah.
maybe it's a foul on another day in another game, but it's not a foul in this game. Like, what is that guidance that you give to VAR to know when they should get involved and when not get involved?
And actually, good question, because that's what separates really the better VARs from the really good ones and the poor ones, is because you can look. Both of us can look at a foul, and we could say, I don't think it's a foul, and you would say, I think it's a foul, and we both could be right because there's some contact there that's subjective, like the level of contact. And as a grassroots referee, and all the different levels that you do, high school, that a foul in a high school game, for example, might not be a foul in an under 12 game, or vice versa, because the level of players and what's expected by those players. Like you look at a pro match, it's not the same as a high school match because there's certain things that are expected and not expected, right? So one of the things we teach them is look at just because you think it's a foul is not doesn't mean you're going to intervene because you still have to say that this just is not a foul. This is just not a penalty kick. Then you have to intervene, and that's where the really difficult decisions for VAR is the holding and pushing because there's a certain amount of arm battling, what do you want to call it, jostling, bumping, pushing, shoulder back that's expected in the game. That's part of it. At every single level you play, people bump into each other all the time, right? So at what level does it go over the line? And we used to kind of go with the thing like, is there an injustice by what the player did? Did he gain a huge advantage by doing what some of the foul? And then you need to intervene. And the only thing that where we go with red cards, we go a little bit different than that. With red cards, we kind of look at if you think it's a red card, we want you to intervene because we don't want to miss a red card because red cards can be the idea of red cards is protect the players,
Right.
right? That's a safety issue more to sue. So we're more than okay with if the referee goes to the monitor and there's a little disagreement on a red card between the VAR and thing because we're trying to protect the players. But we have like on every corner kick, you could probably find a foul,
Mhm.
some kind of holding somewhere,
Yeah.
some kind of either way, you could give a penalty kick or call it going out. But it's not what's expected in the game, and so we do also want the VARs to have a feeling for the game. That's the hardest part. For example, we did have a red card in MLS last year that was in the 89th minute. It was borderline. We called it like we call it basically a Sunday league tackle, where a guy kicks the ball and the guy just keeps on going and knocks the guy flat, right? But the player had been a pain the entire game. And the referee said, I've had enough. You've been doing this all on the field. It's a red card. You could argue whether maybe it's a yellow card or not, but we're not going to get involved with that. That's the referee's decision,
Right.
you know? And so the VR has to be aware what the referee's decisions are and what they've been giving through the game. And we all know if you're a decent referee that a red card in the 89th minute
Yes.
is totally different than in the second minute
Right.
because the 89th minute has 88 minutes of history that's been happening in the game, and players are going to react, uh, you know, totally different. And it may be a red card for game management where at the second minute, people went, "Hey, you guys, stop doing that," and they stop doing it. So you're not never going to give a red card. So the VARs have to think that way too.
Yeah.
We've had reviews for no red cards in the first couple minutes of a game, because it just wasn't there. The referee thought he was, but at the second minute, it's not a red card. But if it was the 90th minute, you go, "Yeah, the players have been reacting to this all game, and this is a time where it has to happen." So the VARs are like that too. We want them to have a feel for the game.
Yeah, no, I love that. Greg, you're speaking lots of truths there. I think these are things that,
I'm preaching.
no, seriously, but those are the truth of, something that happens in the second minute of the game is different from something that happens in the 98th minute of the game when it's subjective. I mean, again, if we've got
Right.
lunging studs up to the knee with excessive force, we all know there's no getting out of that, or a dog so like very clear last, there's no, it's like right outside the 18, they're by themselves. Okay,
Yeah.
you manage out of that. But the situation you described where there's just all this pent up energy and emotion, and this can completely boil over if we don't get this person off the field after doing, what is a, pretty orange or possibly
Yeah.
red foul. Yeah, that's a game management decision by the referee who's in that moment, who's like, no, that's a send off because,
Yeah.
I'm done. You've been warned, it's been happening all game. You're gone. We can't allow this to happen anymore because it's going to get out of control. And the VAR has to be sensitive to that. They have to be
Yeah.
listening to it. They have to understand what's going on to be able to support the referee and not get in the way of the referee managing the match that's actually happening on the field. Now,
Right.
one thing I do want to talk about, Greg, because this is something that's really fascinating to me as well, is I think a lot of people, assumed, and I think this probably was the case when VAR first started, that you guys were actually at the stadiums, that the VAR people might actually have been at the stadium and could hear crowd noise and feel energy, and emotions are contagious doing their work. But now you guys have actually moved to a more purpose-built facility for VR. Can you talk about why you've made that transition to a purpose-built facility, and what are the pros of being in a purpose-built facility, and what could be possibly the drawbacks of that?
Yeah, we moved to a secret, undisclosed location, and Well, we call it's in Arlington, Texas, so we call it Varlington. Um, just but we did that. Let's see, was it 2018, 2019 when we transferred over? We were in the stadiums at the start for those first years. And can you imagine now, of course, you have to have computer equipment in now 30 stadiums, operators in 30 stadiums, technology people in 30 stadiums. So as a scheduling and as an organization, it was very difficult, much more difficult. You can imagine during COVID, like to travel people, to get people to places. And if somebody has a flight delay, you got nobody else going that can go there, right?
Yeah.
And we have that happen. I mean, we have basically every weekend a couple hundred people flying around the country. So we actually, first we started in Atlanta, and then we moved to Dallas for the dedicated facility. And of course, for scheduling reasons, it makes a huge difference. Um, if someone a flight gets delayed or something, there's another VAR in the room type thing that we can move over there. So that makes a huge difference for us logistically. It also helps centralize our training that we can give feedback individually after a match to everybody that's there. Um, there's a an idea of training, and also just overall technology wise, less breakdowns and less issues with that. Hey, look, if you want, I'll give a little plug for if anybody's in Dallas that's a referee, especially who would like to be a replay operator, which is the operator that when you were in Philadelphia, you sat next to a person who actually ran all the machines for you as you looked at. We always need some new people, and we actually have hired when we first moved to Dallas area. We looked at some of the referees and players there because we want people that operate to understand soccer and understand refereeing. And so several of our operators that we use in Dallas are grassroots referees
Hmm.
that go out and they're doing games on their own, on their thing, but then they get to operate with MLS matches. And it helps a lot because they understand, okay, I'm looking for an offside. Well, they know exactly where the offside is. And handball, oh, I remember where the hand is here, and so we actually recruited from there. And I tell you what, if someone's interested, they could probably get a hold of us, and we would probably could put them through their training, and it's a nicely paid job. So
Oh, that's so cool. I do have a question about so there's the video operator that sat next to me and helped me kind of, hey, screen two, can you zoom in?
yeah,
Can you give me slow motion on that? Can I see contact point? And there's someone who helps you like move the things there. But your VAR, your video assistant referee, and your assistant VAR, there's two for each match. Are those people generally people who actually referee matches at the MLS level? Are they people that are just, they could be anywhere through the pyramid? They might be regional referees, they might be national, they might be pro. It feels like in the Premier League when I watch a match there, it almost always seems that a Premier League referee, whether it's Simon Hooper or it's Anthony Taylor or Michael Oliver, is the VAR for the match in the Premier League. Does pro do something similar where they always have a pro referee as the VAR? Is it similar type setup?
yeah, I mean, we have two groups. We have a dedicated group of VAR onlys. There's a group of that, and AVARs only, assistant VAR. And then all our referees are certified to be VARs,
Mm,
as well as all of the assistant referees. And we use them. For example, if they need a break from the field, they have a slight injury or something, they'll come in the booth and work that weekend to get a kind of a respite from being on the field. And usually every weekend there's probably two or three of the referees from the field working in the VOR, and then the rest are dedicated to that. And let's see, I'd say half of them were former MLS pro referees that basically through their time and aged out. If you want, I don't know if I'd say aged out, but the fitness
I
test can get
mean, I know, yeah.
you know what I mean? So I don't want to say that in that way, but they're people that have refereed or coming up. And then we have a new group that we train. Like we have a training program going on right now with 15 referees who are mostly working in the USL second division right now. In other words, they're on a career path of hopefully getting to MLS on the field or to NWSL. I should include NWSL as well. They're on a career track to get on the field for that. And as part of their training is they are adding VAR to their resume, put it that way. And so we've trained them, and they work for in the NWSL league and with us. We trial them up, and if they're doing really well, we bring them up to do MLS matches. But there's a group of maybe 10 to 15 or so that are on that track to become there, and their levels are mostly national referees. I don't think we've gone below that. There may have been, but we open up kind of applications from that group every year because we have to keep filling the gaps that we have. So most of them are dedicated, but everybody who's on the field is trained to be a VAR, and they do come in. It's just like everything. Some people are better at it than others.
Hmm.
You look at us. Some people can look at a screen, they panic.
Yeah.
They can't make a decision, but then on the field they're instinctive, right? Oh,
Hmm.
but you tell them, why was that a foul? They go, well, because it is. I mean, I look, I know it's a foul, but they can't explain it to you. But the VAR really has to be able to dissect things and say, yeah, that's a red card because there was a straight leg, contact was above the knee, and was excessive force.
Hmm.
But a referee who's on the field will go, that's a red card because I saw it and it was a red card.
Yeah.
So in fact, when VAR came out, some of our better referees who were instinctive referees, they struggled mightily with somebody questioning their decision because all their careers they had been super strong on. I called a penalty kick because it's a penalty kick, right? And I stood by my decision. Now they were told all of a sudden that wait, someone's got to kind of confirm your decision, and that threw some of them off. They couldn't. They had a tough time dealing with that because they were always just like, "You're right," and no one can tell me wrong because there's nobody out there to tell me I'm wrong. But now they had somebody they could tell them they were wrong, so that messed with their psyche a lot.
Yeah. Well, I know, it seems the trend these days around the world, not just in the MLS, but also in the Premier League and other top competitions. The qualities that they're looking for from a referee is someone who's a good game manager, but also someone who can be humble and manage that situation that, hey, no, hey, don't worry, they're taking another look at it. We'll see what it is. And they have to be comfortable in that environment. Yes, confident when they make the call, but also open to the fact that VAR may see something else. I mean, whether you're an assistant referee and something's onside or offside or goal, no goal type of thing, but definitely as a referee as well on the challenges. I think it's so interesting. But can we talk a little bit more about that VAR role? So when I was sitting, in that chair, and you hear on your program, we get to listen
Yeah,
to the completely unedited VAR referee communications that are happening, and the fourth officials in there too. There's like a whole lingo that you guys talk
yeah,
about with like the APP and like all these different things. Can you talk through like some of the
yeah,
communication stuff that you guys have to learn to be able to be a VR, to work with VR? What are some of those acronyms you use, and how are
yeah.
they used in the match?
Well, some of the stuff all came up from us learning as we started to go through because timing was important, and then there was miscommunications that happened on the field. Sometimes nobody ever noticed, but we noticed it took longer because of certain things. So, like one of the ones that we use that I think is only VAR related is a word that we came up with here in the United States, which is called kick point. So we say, "Give me the kick point," and we did that because we needed something to tell the operator when I wanted to look at offside and only offside. So a kick point is basically, it could be off the head, but the operator understands that that's the point of last touch before an offside decision. So it's a freezing point, right? Because offside is only one moment, right?
Right.
The
The moment
position,
that matters.
right?
Yes.
So they know a kick point is a freeze frame mark, and we'll tell them to book it. And book it is another thing where they mark that spot in time so they can always go back to it immediately. We found it helped out because then if we say point of contact, say, give me the point of contact, they know that we're not looking for offside anymore. They know that we're looking for a foul, okay, or a handball, because now we're looking to see something where something contacted the ball, hit the hand or the leg, etc. So just saying those two words, the operator already knows what we're looking for.
Hmm.
Okay, so everybody in the room. The other one, the APP came into play because that's just the vocabulary of VARs. It stands for the attacking phase of play is what it stands for, or we call it attacking possession phase two. It basically is the time in front of a goal or a penalty kick that's part of that attack that contributes to it, and where it starts and when it ends is kind of it's subjective because we want there to be a connection between, let's say, a foul and the goal. because you could have something happen a minute before, and what team had possession for a full minute and then they scored. Well, nobody would say we can't go back to a minute before. That had nothing to do with the goal. It was a missed foul, but in a game, how many missed fouls? How many missed fouls do you have in your game? How many will you admit to? Right? You have every game. You're going to have someone. I should have blown my whistle, but it's too late now. So that's what the APP stands for. Just like look at uh, where is it in connection to the goal? Do they connect? Is the player lose the ball and that they scored by a foul? So that was one of them we came up with. Kick point is the biggest one. Point of contact, check complete. Why do we say check complete? When we say check complete, the referee understands that they can restart the game, that everything's done. So we don't say check complete until the VAR is actually done. And only one person says check complete, the VAR. Nobody else says it. Okay? And same wise, only they would recommend a review. And that's why I say recommend a review. And you talked before about different things that we do in this country because of history. We go to the monitor for every decision in for VAR in the United States. We're the only country that does it, I believe, because other countries won't go for offside and for a couple other decisions, right? We did that because we're doing it for the fan experience and for people to understand what's happening. In America, we were used to, before the rest of the world, of officials going to a screen to make a decision, right? We had it in NFL, we had it in hockey, we had it in tennis, right? So we had all these sports that Americans were used to where they saw going to an official go to a monitor before changing the call. When we first started with MLS, we did not always go for offside. But what happened one time in New England, there was a long ball. A guy jumps up, flicks it back over his head, goes to another player who scored a goal. Okay? We look at it. The player who had flicked the ball had come from an offside position.
Mhm.
So the VAR goes on. I recommend a review for no goal. The player number 9 was offside. Okay. Beep, boop. They restarted the game.
Yeah.
In the stadium, it said 1-0 for 10 minutes. On the monitor of the program, it also said 1-0, and on the field it was 0-0.
Mm.
Nobody ever saw what happened, and so after that point, we said, "Look, let's go to the monitor so the fans in the stadium can understand what's happening. The broadcasters have a moment to dissect what happens." And that's really why we end up doing it, going to the monitor. It's more so for the fans to understand what's happening. And now it's less important because we make the announcements. And again, that's something that we started here in this country first, before FIFA made their practice ones. We had already practiced it and we had presented to FIFA the possibility of doing this. And we had several training sessions with the referees where we would show them a play on a monitor, and then they'd have to turn around and make an announcement for it. And so then it got passed eventually, and then now we obviously do it, and it helps for the fan experience to understand what's going on, and it's good for the game.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought that you guys went to the monitor for offside just because in America, or for pro, I should say, I want to be very
Yeah,
specific for pro, that you guys weren't sitting around trying to draw lines and determining if someone's 1 centimeter off based on how we draw a line. You guys
right.
were making offside decisions based on, is it clear and obvious that they're in an offside position based on the video evidence I have? And then the referee would also affirm, yep, I can see it. It definitely
Yeah.
looks clear to me. He's, his whole, torso is off or whatnot, or his foot is definitely off. Because I felt, that was the reason
That's one
for
of
it.
the reasons too. That I should have mentioned. That's also the reason too, because it is a subjective decision in the end, right?
Yeah.
If you draw a line, it becomes factual.
Hmm.
Okay, and one of the reasons we don't draw lines, because personally I don't like it, but that's my personality talking. But we don't draw lines because one of the problems we had early on is that all our stadiums are different, and getting the technology in there to be fair, it didn't really work out. And to be honest, when you put lines down, you're going to take away more goals.
Yeah.
You're not going to be giving goals. And
Listen, I
so
think it
the
is in the
referee,
spirit of the game. I liked how it was. Now, are you still going to go to now? From what I understand, has MLS implemented the semi-automated offside technology?
not yet, not
Okay.
yet. So nothing's going to change for this coming year in regard to that. So that's why the referee goes there to confirm the offside position. Usually it's pretty straightforward because we're only getting involved in ones that we feel are pretty clear. And
Mhm.
our VARs and AVARs are trained pretty much to look at the camera angle,
Yep.
the lines in the field, and the spacing between the players, and that's where they make their decision. So usually when there's an offside change, it's you look at it and go, yeah, it's offside,
Yeah,
or
well,
vice
I
versa.
again, I think it's the spirit of the game that you guys are applying, and I personally, I think it's a wonderful thing the way you're doing it. Is it clear and obvious, from the video that we're looking at here? And if it's not, then let the goal stand. If it's goal scoring, is usually that's the situation we get involved in, which is so cool. I do want to ask about one thing. So when I was there in Philly and I'm on the screen and I've a play has happened and then all of a sudden you're like you're like trying to figure out, okay, bring me back to the kick point, the attacking phase of play, whatever it is. And I'm looking, trying to figure out things. I mean, there's a lot of pressure. I got to be honest. It's like when you're a referee and you're on the field and you're running, yeah, there's pressure, but you also release it through your body, because you're running around the field and you kind of, you ground yourself and you're breathing, you could take a moment. Yeah, there's pressure, but it's different. When I was sitting in front of that screen, I can only imagine, for 2 hours, you're staring at these screens in this closed room and there's all these things happening and you're constantly looking to see what might be happening. If there's something that I need to bring to the attention of the referee, if it's a high scoring game, might be numerous different times to do this, looking for offside, everything, all these things. How do you prep your VARs and AVARs for the mental marathon? That mental grind that they are going to be going through, on a match. Maybe I misread it, but I felt like it was a lot of mental pressure. How do they deal with it sitting in that VAR chair and staying cool and calm and collected?
Yeah, I mean, I forgot to mention when we moved out of the stadiums into a location, we lost a little bit of that feeling of being at a game,
Mm,
because even in the booths that we had and the rooms that we had, you could hear the crowd cheering when a goal happened and etc. So even no matter where you were in the stadium, you could hear that. And so people at a game, right, they feel that emotion. You're like when you go to a game, anywhere,
yeah,
you get there, the teams are showing up, you kind of get, oh, okay, I'm getting ready to go. The heartbeat starts going, and so that happens. So now with the other one, it's sort of like you're in a sterile environment, like it's quiet overall, and you're going to a room, right? So the training we do with them is, first of all, is we have them look at lots of plays. I mean, they're looking at a lot of plays so that when something happens, they're already prepared for that type of decision. So we've separated all the decisions in many ways into what we think that you get involved with and not, like handball. This is when you see this, this is what we expect. When you don't see this, don't get involved. With the red cards, if it's serious foul play, these are what we're looking for: serious foul play, and this is our line of intervention. If it crosses over, you go for it. So a lot of these things are already in their mind. They know, so that keeps them much more calmer. And you'll hear, like when you hear the inside video review, you'll hear different people talk more or less by their style. And some, like one of our best VARs is Kevin Stott, and he narrates the game like if he was a radio announcer,
mm,
because that keeps him in the game constantly. So he's talking about player in the middle. Okay, there's going to be a cross coming, so he's constantly in the game. That keeps him emotionally in the game. So when something happens, he's already ready. Our worst VARs are the ones that kind of sit there quietly throughout the whole match, and then boom, something happens. And it's like going from 0 to 90, that you're not ready. Your heart rate's not ready. And you can see the heart rate. And I should say, I know you said before that Inside Video Review is unedited
mm.
in the audio. Every now and then I do edit out the swear words, because sometimes the VR will look up at a screen and they'll see something and they'll go, oh, and it'll come out, because they know, oh, this is a big one. It's gonna be a big one. And or like the referee calls a penalty kick when their first thought was, oh, that's nothing. And they, oh, a penalty kick given. Whoa. And
Yeah.
some people just can't keep it in. So I have to admit, I do edit out for to keep it family friendly. Put it that
Yes.
way.
Yes. No, I can
I try
only
to all
imagine.
audio, but there is a few moments where I've had to taken out a few choice words. Keep it, but
I
yeah,
love
that
it.
the best planning for them is to be prepared for pretty much every situation. So during the week, they see every previous situation, and they're regularly training on looking at handballs, every type of handball you could possibly imagine. And as referees, we can take the most simplest play and talk about it for hours. Go to a referee meeting. You can put one play up there and be 30 minutes later talking about one play, because that's what we referees do.
Well, it's tough. I mean, you brought up handball. I mean, we could look at one play, and again, if we had to like write down our answer and submit it, you might look at that play and be like, natural position based on his body movement at the
Yeah,
time, whatever. And I might say, it was a deliberate action. He was deliberate making
yeah.
his
Who
body
moves that
better.
way?
I mean, it's serious. It can be so difficult, but I think that's again, what you're doing by showing these plays and saying this is the expected decision in this scenario. This is the expected decision in this scenario. So you get everyone on the same page, so that when they do see it happen in a match, they can be in alignment together.
And one of the things that our grounding principle is that the on-field decision is right. Okay, unless we can prove it wrong or say it's wrong. So we're already starting at a level that's pretty high up that the referees are not making make mistakes. So you're saying, okay, what's the decision to field penalty kick's given? Okay, now I have to see that it's not a penalty kick. Not a maybe penalty kick. It's just not a penalty kick. And then I have to get involved. So that line helps a lot. Like if you just see a generic play and you have side, is it a penalty kick or not? You might go, oh, could be a penalty kick, maybe not. But at least they know that they have a line where the on-field decision is the right decision to start with, and they have to find it wrong. Because there's also the player. There's an expectation that the on-field decision is right from the players. Like think of it this way: it's much easier to give somebody something than take away.
Hmm.
Like if I give you a penalty kick and I come back and say, I'm gonna take that penalty kick away, you're upset. You gave me a nice gift, a penalty kick. But if nothing happens, right, there's nothing given, I go, hey, I'm gonna give you a penalty kick. Okay, great, I'll take it. Thank you very much. The best referee I've ever seen. So it's that kind of perspective is how we have to look at it. The referee is given something, and that's the right decision at that point. And we have to prove otherwise. And so that helps. Like when you went to that monitor, right? You're looking at I can't remember if it was a foul or something, but you're thinking, would I give a penalty kick or not? Versus, is it clearly wrong or right? Which then makes it a lot easier because you're not going the whole spectrum of penalty kick or no penalty kick. You're just going, is this not a penalty kick or is it a penalty kick? Versus
Hmm.
having to make that decision in a live match.
I would also say I think the decisions are accepted from players a little better than even sometimes a live decision, right? Because everyone's heart rates are up and everyone's like really emotional about it. But usually, once VAR says nope, I've been to the monitor and it's a foul by number 10 in the penalty area, it's a penalty kick.
Yeah.
People are like, okay, well they've viewed it, they've all reviewed it, they've looked at it,
Yeah.
the VAR has viewed it, the referee has viewed it, they looked at it multiple times. They've seen it. Okay, it's got to be a kick. So I think
You're
people have
bringing
to
up the
trust that.
danger. You're bringing up the danger of VAR also, which is go take a second look.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, I know that's
So,
something
what I mean?
fans go crazy
That's the
about.
danger, right? That in some leagues we know it's pretty much happening that way. We're not in MLS. We don't go there. It's the VAR when they send the monitor. It's because they think it's wrong.
Right.
Vice versa. And right now, I think we're at 90%. We call it referee acceptance. There's another VAR word that they accept the VAR's recommendation and change their decision.
Mm.
That 10% in there where there's a little bit of difference between the two, and we're not always that upset about the 10% there because there are some plays like that I really feel that that's a red card. I mean that to me is a red card, and you're looking at but I think that there's a little bit of a glancing blow there, and I saw it live, so
Mhm.
I'm going to stay with my decision, and we can live with that because sometimes there is just those things where somebody is the VAR is thinking to me this is a 100% red card, and for you it's like what, it could be a red card, but I saw it live and the speed wasn't there or the force wasn't right there, and you know what, the VAR's the hardest thing for them is speed and force.
Yeah,
Video doesn't show it.
that's right.
Slow motion makes it look huge.
Oh my gosh, slow motion makes every single foul look so much worse. I see people will send me videos every single day, Greg. So I get
Yeah,
like a U10 game where some girl has been like gently pushed over, but because you're seeing it in slow motion and she's
yeah,
falling down, it looks like she's absolutely crushed. It's like, how is this not a red card? I was like, because it's not. It's like
yeah.
just like
Well, the
like
same
just
thing is
like
I could
yeah.
I could send you freeze frames of
Oh
lots of
yeah,
plays, and you'd be 100% red card, and then I put in the play, and you go, oh yeah, he
yeah. There's
barely touched
nothing
the
there.
person. Yeah. So that's what we deal with on a regular basis. But and you know what, the more experience, I mean, new VARs struggle hard. It takes them 40, 50 games before they can really get that feeling of, yeah, I'm going to intervene or I'm not going to.
Mm.
So you got another 40 games to go before we hire you.
I would love to do it. I think I actually would be pretty good at it. I have to tell you that. I feel like I've got that in me. I really do. Because I love the whole. Again, I have a real love for the laws of the game and the applications of the game and the considerations of the game. And just by the nature of my channel, I see, as you said, so many clips, right?
Yeah.
So many video clips from so many different angles and so many different age groups. I feel like I would do it justice.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'd be exciting. Someday I got to come to to
Yeah.
Varlington and check it out. That'd be
Yeah,
fun.
you're invited.
That's awesome, man. Well, I just want to ask, if there was any like one thing you just want people at home to know about VAR and what you guys are trying to do there, or the challenges are, what would be the one thing you want, referees, casual fans to know about pro and your use of VAR here in America?
That really we strive to keep a high line of intervention. That we are really trying not to go down the path of a second look, or let's just go have them look at it again, because otherwise we feel over 510 game MLS season we won't be consistent. So that's why when you see us, what we call sometimes in referee terms we call it a soft penalty kick, we're not going to get involved with that.
Yeah,
And you know good and well that a different referee might not have given that penalty kick.
yeah,
And this day, on that day, this referee gave that penalty kick, and it's on the soft side. Let's say it was a push, and it wasn't the strongest of pushes, but there's a credible reason why the referee blew the whistle, because the player did push or shove, right, and they lost the ball. And that could be frustrating for some people because they go like, "That's not a penalty kick to me." Okay, yeah, but you said to you.
yeah,
What you gotta say is that wasn't a penalty kick anywhere.
yeah.
And that's where people struggle sometimes with even red cards or whatnot. That how come the VR didn't get involved there? It says, well, when you think of it and you look at it again, there's a credible consideration for the decision the referee gave. Like sometimes holding, we hate holding, right? Like
Mhm.
there, because the whole thing about does a holding have impact or not? Well, if you're running really fast and someone grabs your arm, yeah, it's going to have impact. But if you're running really slow, it does nothing.
Yeah.
So those are like we don't like to get involved with those, and we don't. And even the coaching staff, the technical staff, they'll argue that's such a soft penalty. But then they'll go, yeah, but why did my defender do that? It's
Why they put themselves in that situation? That's right.
and that's what we looked at. And one of the biggest terms that we use with in almost all our decision is impact.
Yes.
Impact is the big one that we use because the foul itself, does it actually impact the player, or the I should say foul, the contact
Right.
or whatever the player does it actually impact the player, or because embellishment
Yeah.
simulation. I mean, they're good at that. Just like you're talking about a second minute red card, 89th minute red card might be different, but for some reason the gravitational pull inside the penalty area is much bigger than anywhere else on the field. You know what I mean?
1,000%, man. No, they don't make it easy with the
No.
flopping and falling as they do. Well, Greg, I just had a couple last questions for you. We're going to move into the bonus round as we close this out.
Okay.
Real quick, so if you could change
At
one
least
law,
I made it to the bonus round. I'll take that much.
you did a great job. It was so wonderful. So if you could change one law of the game tomorrow, what would it be and why?
I think I know that because being an AR, I would like to change the offside law, and this is the way I would like to do it. I would like, how you have gaining an advantage where like it hits the post or guy saves it and the guy goes and scores.
Right.
I would like to apply advantage to all offside. So in other words, even interfering with play, if there is a defender that's way off 20 yards away that has kept you on, kept you off, is not there, like kept you off. It's like that person has no impact on you where your position is. They're not going to defend you. They're not going to get to you. So
Mm,
why should that affect you? Like you should only be with the players right close to you or something. That we have less offsides in a way. And
that's
then also just I don't want offsides to be a centimeter. So to me, it's
yeah.
if you really got advantage on a player by your position, then it should be punished. But if you're running side by side and you just happen to have a toenail in front of the other player, to me, you're not really gaining an advantage. You're not there. You're not interfering with that player. So they still have the same opportunity to tackle you. But then, of course, people argue, but yeah, that 1 inch might have been what kept him from getting the ball. But
Yeah.
That's just kind of my old feel about offside. But
I just have to say, I think offside is just it's a brutal law to implement no matter how you draw up
yeah,
that rule. Because again, you were talking about some things that were subjective there about, oh,
yeah,
someone on the other side of the field. But even with the new, they call it the Arsene Wenger rule where it's the
yeah,
whole body needs to be. It's like we're still going to be looking, for millimeters of daylight between one player and another.
right.
It's a hard law to implement as is.
Right.
It
That's why
really
that's
is.
why I thought if you throw impact in there, like okay, the guy was slightly off, but he was off to the defender that was 20 yards away.
Yeah.
It was the second last opponent. Has no influence on him at all. Come on. Let's let them play and score more goals.
Yeah, I think, that also could be said for, again, the quote unquote, the attacking phase of play. If let's say
Right.
there's a player who's a toenail off, but there was like 5 or 6 or 7 passes later around the penalty area and they scored, do we rule out the goal for
Yeah.
that? I mean, I know there's just a lot of issues with to say the least. All right,
Well,
so
mostly for me, the rules that just I want more goals.
I hear you. I hear it. Okay, you worked on the line in the MLS for a very long time, and then a referee since a national referee since '95. What is the most memorable thing you've ever heard someone yell at you from the sidelines?
Uh, you know, um, the Metro Stars
Uh-huh.
used to play in Giant Stadium, right? And there wasn't always a lot of people there. And I remember one time I was running the line there, and it was an old lady voice. It says, I heard you. I'm gonna get you in the parking lot. It was like your 80-year-old grandmother was yelling at me. And I don't know why I remember that one,
Yeah,
but it's one of the ones I remember just because it was like so out of the voice did not
yeah.
match the threat. So, what I mean? So like if it was some tough guy that says, I can see the parking lot, I
Yeah,
said, okay, I need security.
yeah, yeah.
It did sound like my grandmother yelled at me and said, hey, I'm gonna get you in the parking lot.
I
I know
love
where you
that.
park your car.
So what is as we wrap up here, what is the best at the end of a match, if you're the referee or you're the assistant referee, what is the best compliment you can receive as a ref? What is something someone says to you that's like, "Yep, okay, good
Oh.
job. Today was a good day."
Well, I tell you what, I mean, just that anybody saying, good job, well done, thought you did well today, is enough
Yeah,
for any game, right? To make you feel good on the way to the parking lot. Even just thank you. It's a huge boost for every referee to get that. But I think sometimes it's when they talk about a specific decision. Like I really thought you got that penalty kick right. And especially if it's against their team. That's that hits really nice. That's like a nice drink at the afterwards. That just lands perfectly. But I think, to be honest, like I think I told you out there that
yeah,
I watch go to my grandson's melee soccer where 8 kids are running around the ball, and they always have some young 12, 13-year-old referee there. I always walk up after them, and I don't have my pro gear on. They don't
right,
know who I am, and I goes, "Hey, thank you for refereeing today."
yeah,
And the look on their faces
yeah,
is like, oh, what, really? Oh, even so for me, that's what every referee deserves after a match, is that I don't care who you are. You're getting in your car and you happen to see the referee parked next to you. Hey, ref, thanks for coming. Thanks
yeah,
for refereeing today. That's all, man.
I
It,
know.
it makes a huge difference, and it's not going to hurt you that much. Even if the referee sucked. I mean, to be honest, most referees don't affect your outcome of your game.
Right.
It's very few times, even in the 14, what do you do, 1,400 games?
Yeah,
You know, I mean, maybe 5 of them you've actually wrecked it, and you probably screwed one team. But really, the majority, 99% of the games, the referee isn't going to affecting the outcome. It's the performance of the
that's
players.
right.
And yeah, there might be a missed offside, there might be a goal that will cross an arm line, but in the end, it's almost not the referee, but it's if you appreciate, like, I mean, 1,400 games. How many times did you not have a referee show up or an assistant referee show up for in your games, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I always got excited, even as a young player, about playing the game. And if you got there and they looked around, and you didn't see the official anywhere, you'd go, "Oh, are we going to play today?"
Mhm.
And you're worried, and then see somebody pulling up late, and it's because they came from another game, and you're happy they're there, and then you go yell at them. So I would, I mean, even I play over 50 here in New Jersey, you know, um, because I think I'm still good, so it's mentally up here. But even then, like I get to the game, and is the referee going to show up today? Because first of all, if you want to do a hard league, I don't know if you do over 50s. Do you do over 50?
Oh, bro, I avoid the adult over 35
I
like
mean,
the
you
plague.
want a difficult match.
Oh,
Do us old guys who, first of all, think we can still play like we're in our 20s,
no,
right? And
Greg.
not only will you deal with me arguing with that, you'll deal with my team arguing with ourselves.
Yeah, no,
You know?
listen. I've sworn off the recreational adult soccer for the time. My last experience was such a negative
Oh,
experience. And listen, I'm not saying it's all about the players. Like I wasn't in the right mindset
yeah,
to be able to officiate that match. There's such a different mindset you have to be when you're dealing with, 15, 16, 17-year-old players where you're still trying to teach them, how to
yeah,
act and how to, whatnot.
right,
And, hey, no, what my call is the call. When you're dealing with adults and recreational, and they do act sometimes very immature and there's just a lot of emotion, whatnot. You have to
yeah,
be so much more of like in like judo or jujitsu where you're just kind of like,
yeah,
okay, sure, buddy. It's just laugh it off and you just
yeah,
move on, whatnot. And
yeah,
every little touch is a foul because they want every little touch to be a foul in that game. I wasn't in the right mental space to
yeah.
officiate that. I'm sure at some point in my future again, there'll be a time where I want to do that. It's
Hey,
just not
if
right
you
now.
ever run short of content, I mean, you can certainly get
Oh my
plenty of.
gosh. Listen, man. But again, at the end of the game,
Yeah,
you don't need someone to say, "Hey, great job." Just thanks. Thank you.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, you
Good
do.
job.
That's all,
A fist bump, whatever. Hey,
yeah,
mutual respect. Great. Thank you. That's all you
yeah.
need. And you make a referee's day. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what level, how often
Yep.
you played, even if you haven't played. But I
Yep.
tell you what, I wish it would. And I don't want the mandatory stuff. That's what I don't
Yep.
like. I mean, when I coached my team, I told them you always will go up to the referee afterwards, but I'm not going to line you up and have you go there because then it's just forced. Just you just go up there, even if you did a terrible job, just say, "Hey, thank you for being here," or don't say anything at all. Shake his hand. And I think that players and coaching staffs and parents just need to do that simple act of respect without being told. And I think we won't lose so many referees. We lose so many referees in 1 2 years, and almost all of them quote the same thing: the abuse at the field.
Yep.
You know, and it's not the players abusing them; it's the adults,
A
unfortunately.
1,000%. It's the adults of the field. Well, Greg, I just want to say thank you so much for making the time to joining me and us, the referee community today on the podcast. I am so excited to see you and pro and your fellow officials, this year on the pitch. It's a big year for America. It's a big year for the
Yeah,
United States. Certainly, obviously, got MLS kicking off in just a few weeks now. But
yeah.
World Cup coming to town. I bet there's going to be a number of your officials from pro who are also participating in the World Cup final. So I just again want to congratulate you on your success, your unbelievable run with pro, taking us to the future and all the technologies, and just being a wonderful human being, Greg. I just
Well, thank
sincerely
you.
thank you so much.
I appreciate being here. Thank you. And I enjoy what you do. I watch it because I love that you do the grassroots stuff. That some of these plays that you'll never see anywhere in the world, but hey, they happen on the weekend at the park.
That's right.
They're great.
That's awesome. Well, guys, everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's pod. Please, please, please remember to support the Refs Need Love 2 store online. Everything gets poured back into making this channel possible. Definitely check out the brand new USSF styled pro grip socks I put in there. I promise you, you'll wear these around the house. They're the most comfortable things ever. You'll love them. And as always, I hope your next match is red card free.